How is it going, everyone? It's Kamen here, and today we are going to be talking about a PlayStation 1 game. We are going to be talking about Kamen Rider, the bike race on the PlayStation 1. This is a game that came out in Japan only. It's obviously based off of the TV series Kamen Rider, something that I'm not super familiar with. I know that they made a manga of it, and I probably should read the manga at some point. I do like to read manga every now and then. And maybe I should check out the show, too, because this game actually is pretty fun. I really did enjoy this game. This is one of those simple 2000 games. It's one of those games that was basically a budget title. So there's not a whole lot of content here, if I'm being completely honest. However, the content that is here makes me want more. I actually really had a fun time with this game. It's pretty cool because you have a few different modes. You have your main mode, which is the Grand Prix mode, and you basically pick your driver, one of these different Kamen Riders. You pick one of them, and then you do 3 races in a row, one-on-one races, and you just try to beat your opponent. And even if you lose on a race, it doesn't make you restart the entire Grand Prix or anything like that. You just have to redo the one race, which is fine with me. But it's these one-on-one races, and then there's still other bikers on the course, and you can drive up to them, and like in Road Rash, you can actually punch the other drivers, or you can kick them. You can kick the other drivers off their bikes and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool, and you can kick your opponent off their bike too. So I just really like that, and I just thought it was a lot of fun. It definitely reminds me of Road Rash in a lot of ways, and I see a lot of comparisons to that, and I completely get it. And another thing that's kind of cool is that each character has their own ability that they can use. There's these little equipment pickups that you can find on each course, and if you pick them up, you can store them, and then you can use those abilities, and each one has their own ability. Some of them are able to just get a boost, some of them have a fireball that will launch out at the other driver, just stuff like that, and I really like those abilities. I thought they were really fun, and I was a little bit disappointed that they were only in the Grand Prix mode, because I thought it would have been cool to use those in another mode in this game, which is basically like a demolition mode. There is a mode that is all about just trying to take down as many of the other bikers as possible in a time limit. You're basically driving in circles, and you have a time limit that's counting down, and you have to knock over the other drivers. You kick them off their bikes, or you run your bike into their bike and knock them over, and it will actually add time every time you knock another driver over. And you basically just try to get as many laps as possible, and it will count how many laps you get, and it will also count how many drivers you knock down, and it's basically like a high score type of game. And I actually enjoyed that, but I do wish it would have let me use the abilities, because being able to use Fireball and that would have been really fun. But still, I still enjoyed that mode. I thought it's actually a lot of fun to just drive around and, kick these other drivers and just see how many drivers I can knock out before the time limit runs out. So that was actually a really fun game mode too. And then you have time trials. It's time trials. There's nothing too exciting about them, and they're pretty basic, but they're there if you want to try those out as well. Now, this game, in terms of its graphics, I actually think it looks pretty darn good. I love the track design. I think the track design, in terms of the actual graphics of the track and just the look of everything, I like the look of everything. Now, that being said, the track design isn't necessarily the best. You only have 3 tracks in this entire game. 2 of them, I think, are pretty well designed. One of them has a definite issue with being way too skinny of a course, because the handling in this game, again, it's not great. A lot of these old games don't have great handling, and when you have super tight turns on a super tight course like this, you're going to be using the wall to help you turn, and I don't really like having to do that. It kind of takes me out of the experience a little bit, and just seeing that kind of annoyed me a little bit. It's only on one track. It's the very final one. And I do still think that overall the track looks cool. I still like the design of it and everything. It's just that they definitely should have widened out the course a little bit so the handling felt a little bit better. So that would be my one complaint with that. However, the other 2 courses are a lot more open, and I definitely enjoy those quite a bit. There's one that's like a dirt course, and I like that one quite a bit. And then there's one that's basically a regular racetrack, and that one is also pretty cool. The music for this game is fantastic. I absolutely love the music in this game. Great sound design for everything, and I was very happy with that. It controls, other than the handling not being perfect, it still controls pretty darn well. It is very... It's very good about all the inputs. It's very good about everything being on time. Everything works very well. It performs very well. I never had any issues with performance or anything like that. I do wish that you could race more than one driver at a time. I've only seen a way to race one driver at a time so far, and that's a little bit disappointing. But still, even though there's just the one driver on time, at least there's other bikers on the course that you can still fight at the same time. So I guess that kind of makes up for it. I will say this is a very much an arcadey style game, and if this was like in Mr. Gaddy's back in the day, if they would have had like an arcade machine of Kamen Rider the bike race back then, and they would have had like a bike that you could ride on and everything like that, I probably would have played the crap out of this, because this would have been a fantastic game to have in arcades. So, again, if you look at this game like an arcade game, which it basically is in a lot of ways, it's basically just a budget arcadey style racing game. If you look at it that way, it's actually a pretty fun game despite its lack of content. Yes, it definitely could use more content, but you can also find this game for around $10. So at least it's not an expensive game, so the lack of content isn't, a massive deal considering the price. If this was a more expensive title, then I would probably be, bashing this game a bit more for that, but since it is still such a cheap game, it's kind of hard to bash this game too much, especially since this was intended to be a cheap game from its launch. So, either way, I still enjoy this game. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that this game, while it only has those 3 courses, and playing through those 3 courses in the Grand Prix mode does technically count as beating the game, it doesn't end there. There's more content to unlock. There's actually 2 locked racers that you can see right from the beginning that you can unlock by playing through the Grand Prix mode. And after you beat it a couple times, then you can start unlocking some secret characters even. So there is at least more stuff to unlock here, so that is a good thing. And unlocking the secret characters has actually been a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed that part of it. The only other thing to really talk about when it comes to this game is that you can get knocked off your bike as well. You have a little health bar that's kind of in the corner, and if that health bar starts filling up and it gets to the top, that means that you're going to, if you get hit again, you're going to get knocked off your bike. So you kind of have to keep an eye on that too and manage that. So overall, I have to say, if you are a fan of cartoony, arcadey style racing games, this is one that you should definitely have in your collection. It's a really fun arcade style racing game that I think anyone who enjoys those style of games will probably enjoy themselves. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of content, there's not a whole lot of courses, but it is still really fun, and honestly that demolition mode kind of makes up for it, because you can spend quite a bit of time in demolition mode just knocking the other drivers off their bikes. So go check out Kamen Rider the Bike Race on the PlayStation 1, and you guys have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you next one. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.